Listening Library presents Star Wars: Forces of Destiny. Daring Adventures, Volumes 1 and 2, by Emma Carlson Berne. Read for you by January LaVoy.
Rey. Sands of Jakku. A message from Maz. I am glad you have come to see me, my friend. Come close. Don't be shy. This is my favorite place. Look around you. See the deep, starry sky? I have lived a long time, but I have never grown tired of watching the stars here by my fire, sitting on a rock by the lake. And I have tea. Here, help me sprinkle the leaves into my kettle. You must pinch them like so. It brings out the flavor. Spiced Nicillum. Delicious. Now we have our tea, you and we have the fire, throwing its orange sparks into the night sky. I know what you have come for. Stories, eh? Tales. Yes, I see that I am right. And oh, my friend, I have tales to tell. Stories about true heroes. I've certainly known more than a few around the galaxy. Lean close and listen. Learn what it takes to be a hero. And remember, the choices we make, the actions we take, the moments, both big and small, shape us into forces of destiny. Chapter 1. Rey strode through the Jakku desert, her boots sinking into the sand soft as powder, staff slung on her back. The little astromech droid she'd just rescued, BB-8, rolled by her side. Tito had picked up the droid and tied him in a net on the side of his lugabeast. Tito's were unpredictable, so it was lucky this one had listened when Rey told him to drop the astromech. You never knew with them. Rey glanced down at the droid, his spherical body rolling along with his little head balanced on top. He was smeared with dirt, but at least his bent antenna was fixed, thanks to Rey. "How'd Tito find you?" she asked him. The droid whirred at her briefly. Rey snorted. "Oh, classified. Got it. Big secret." BB-8 beeped softly. Rey paused. She couldn't remember the last time she'd heard a thank you from someone. "You're welcome," she said stiffly. BB-8 sped up by her side and let out a gentle buzz. Rey glanced down at the round droid. Without realizing it, she'd been speed-walking toward the AT-AT she called home. She slowed her stride. "Sorry, little guy," she said. "I'm not used to walking with someone else." That was true, she reflected. She was always alone, whether she was working, selling her scrap to the junk dealer Unkar Plutt, or at home in the AT-AT. Even when she was around others, like in Nima Outpost, she was still alone. Until now. It felt odd, walking through the desert with someone else after so much time alone. Odd, but not bad. Actually, it felt kind of nice, like having a friend, or family. But the sky was darkening to dusky purple and she was hungry. Unkar Plutt had given her only 1/4 food portion for her junk that day, even though she had found especially valuable starship parts. Rey stopped and bent down. "Nima Outpost is northwest from here, okay?" She pointed out the distant crags that marked the village. "It takes me a couple hours on my speeder. It'll take you longer, but the terrain is flat. Just hold straight, and you'll hit it eventually." She looked down at the droid's little white head, and a funny feeling rose in her throat. She swallowed it down and patted him firmly. "Take care, okay? And watch out for Night Watcher worms. The old scavengers say the worms can sense the vibrations in the sand, track people who might be parking ships or speeders. Then they eat the junk. There are a lot of them around here." She'd never seen a whole night watcher in the flesh. Few had. Some people called them sand borers. One old scavenger called them Arconon night terrors. They usually stayed under the sand, but once or twice, coming back from a late run, she'd seen a pair of big red eyes blinking at her from just above the surface. That was the night watcher worm, and though Ray knew she wasn't in danger, her speeder and her net of junk were. She always shivered and hurried on. She didn't want any of her stuff to be that thing's meal. BB-8 beeped indignantly. "I know you're not junk, but they might mistake you for it anyway, so just be on the lookout, okay?" Ray turned on her heel, willing herself not to look back. A whirring sound came from behind her. Ray stopped and turned around. BB-8 stood alone in the vast desert, his head drooping. He looked at her and let out one sad little beep. Ray sighed. Okay, you can stay with me, just for tonight. I'll take you to the outpost in the morning. Chapter 2. BB-8 rolled happily by her side as the massive Jakku sun slid below the horizon, burning orange and red. The AT-AT rose like a lump in the distance. Ray's stomach rumbled, and she thought of the food she had eaten earlier. A quarter portion. She had to find a way to get more. The whirring stopped, and she realized BB-8 was no longer by her side. Ray turned. The droid was staring at something in the sand. "BB-8, come on," Ray called. The night wind kicked up, whipping strands of hair in her face. "We don't want to be out on the plains after dark." The droid beeped urgently. "Wait, what do you see?" Ray stopped short, her pulse quickening. 2 red lights popped up from the sand. Just as quickly, they disappeared. Ray's hand crept toward the staff on her back. Delicately, she slipped the strap off her shoulder and tightened her hands around the staff, holding it ready. "Don't move," she muttered. "Just don't move. That's a night watcher worm. I told you, it feeds on junk." The droid let out one frightened squeak. Then he kept perfectly still. Ray held her breath. The eyes popped up again. She could see the head now, like an upside-down triangle with the 2 blinking eyes sticking out at either end. They waited. Ray's heart was pounding so hard she wondered if the night watcher could hear it. She could almost feel its long, coiled body waiting under the sand where they stood. A moment stretched out, long and quiet. BB-8 remained frozen. Not even his antennae quivered. The sand rippled. The red eyes zoomed toward them. "Now we run!" Ray shouted. She sprinted as fast as she could toward her AT-AT home, BB-8 rolling along quickly at her side. The soft sand slipped and slid under her feet, and she stumbled, almost falling. BB-8 pushed himself against her, and for an instant she clung to his round head. "Thanks," Ray gasped. "You're a true friend." BB-8 beeped as his whirring accelerated into a high-pitched whine. The ground rolled again as the night watcher rumbled under the sand. "It probably hasn't eaten today. Hurry! We need to find something else to feed it." Ray's mind raced. The AT-AT would do the trick. It had plenty of rusty beams and panels. The worm wouldn't need much. They would just have to get there in time. Suddenly, the worm shot into the air ahead of them like a starship blasting out of the sand. BB-8 slid to a halt, beeping frantically. Ray pulled up, whipping her staff in front of her and the droid. Her eyes bulged. The scavengers hadn't lied. The worm was massive. Its shiny, plated coils heaved as it whipped its head around. The blinking eyes drew a bead on them, and Ray sucked in her breath. "BB-8, this way!" she shouted. BB-8 sped up, bumping Ray and almost knocking her into the sand. The worm whipped into the air and landed on the sand with a slap. It shot toward BB-8. The droid let out a high-pitched whine as he zigzagged, trying to avoid the worm's gaping black maw. The worm lunged and snapped, missing BB-8 by centimeters as the...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?